If any year can be considered the most noteworthy for gaming, 1996 has to be among the highest ranked. Several long-running franchises, some of which are still going today, debuted in 96. Tomb Raider, Time Crisis, Pokemon, and Metal Slug all began in the year, and another debuting series was Resident Evil. Beginning life as a remake of a movie tie-in which never saw life outside of Japan, Resident Evil marked the beginning of survival horror as a mainstream, definitive genre across the PlayStation 1, and although some of the localization was entirely botched, the game is an intense, macabre, and meticulously designed masterpiece. Taking the role of either Chris Redfield or Jill Valentine, a series of cannibalistic murders on the outskirts of Raccoon City forced the RCPD to send in a special STARS unit to investigate. As Bravo's comms go dark, Alpha Team, including Chris and Jill, follow the trail until deadly dogs maul a team member and force the remaining members of Bravo to flee into a mansion. Now, it's up to either Chris or Jill, depending on who you pick, to explore the mansion and discover the truth behind these murders and dangerous beasts. What unfolds is a brilliantly laid out horror masterpiece. Everything takes place in this abandoned mansion, designed to constantly provide new blockades for you to overcome. It's not so much that it's just a technically advanced setting. For 1996 it was visually sumptuous though, but it's like the video game equivalent of a Rubik's Cube, as you satisfyingly slot the path into place. It may instigate some backtracking, but as you begin to track down the keys, jewels and plaques to open up more of the mansion, eventually opening an entirely new subsection with its own distinct, suffocating atmosphere, this becomes a non-issue. Although Alone in the Dark would pioneer survival horror, Resident Evil arguably perfected it. One source of contention has always been the controls, but arguably they ratchet up the tension further. Navigating around the mansion utilises tank controls, with horizontal movement swerving your character around and vertical pushing you forward and backward. Shooting isn't straightforward either, forcing you to remain still while aiming. It does create a feeling of unease because you often find yourself scrambling to attack. Jill and Chris can run away, but merely getting yourself in a position to move can be tricky. Yet, it's this system of controls which keeps everything tense, as a smoother sense of movement would arguably have reduced the urgency to shooting and moving, especially when faced with tougher bosses. Juggling literal keys, important puzzle items, and supplies to keep you alive becomes the name of the game, with Jill limited to 8 items and Chris just 6. Even the act of saving requires careful thought, as you must utilise ink ribbons to activate save points. No ink ribbons, no saving, increasing the chance of losing substantial progress. But ammo, healing items and ribbons are all a scarce commodity, turning Resident Evil into a tense, thoughtful action game where every action has consequences. It can be punishing, as a bout of confidence can result in losing your progress, but it adds a great layer of tension, resulting in rewarding gameplay once you pass through the tougher sections. Of course, being a horror game, Resident Evil wouldn't be complete without some gruesome foes to confront, and there is a bevy of them. The first encounter with a zombie, as it cannibalizes a member of STARS, is haunting, but their shambling movement and gruesome decapitations keep them in your mind far longer. But as you progress, even more nasties rear their ugly head. Vicious Cerberus dogs, the first of which is involved in one of gaming's greatest jump scares, can run literal circles around you. Spiders cause your skin to crawl, hunters can decapitate you without mercy, and some late-game foes are just as creepy to behold. It's a game that's rich with gameplay too. As mentioned, Resident Evil lets you choose between 2 characters, and these result in differing experiences even if they're narratively similar. Jill serves as a perfect starting point, as not only does she have a bigger inventory and a lockpick, reducing the need to search for keys, but often benefits from the assistance of Barry, avoiding scenarios which would instantly kill Chris. On the other hand, Chris's reduced inventory, inability to play piano, and a lack of a lockpick is compensated with more health, though monsters also take more damage, so it definitely comes off as a harder mode, as there is a deeper focus on backtracking and balancing your inventory. Bonuses are unlocked too, as earning certain endings and completing the game in speedy fashion brings infinite ammo mods and costumes. Your first playthrough will likely last just shy of the 10-hour mark, but you can spend much more exploring this mansion to all it's worth. It's also a presentation powerhouse. Resident Evil relies on pre-rendered backgrounds to showcase a mansion seeping with dread, and they are rather impressive looking, making the 3D objects and characters stand out. Cutscenes show impressive animation and expression, while the shambling zombies, skin-crawling spider movement, and agitated dogs are some of the most frightening monsters to crawl out of your PS1. There's also great use of static camera angles, sometimes obscuring enemies from your sight until they are already taking chunks out of you, making you fear every corner. The atmospheric music combines with some absolutely sickening sound effects that add to this horror, the only tension breaker being the unintentionally hilarious voice acting that, frankly, is so terrible it's incredible.
Captain Wesker, where's Chris?
Stop it! Don't open that door!
Iconic moments, maybe involving a Jill sandwich, produce genuine gut laughs, making it all the more amazing how well it still manages to scare you. Tense, frightening, and rewarding to explore, Resident Evil remains atop of the pile as one of the best games to grace the PS1. The meticulously designed mansion, gruesome array of monsters, and timelessly replayable gameplay mean Capcom's first journey into survival horror still remains one of the best. For those curious about the roots of this long-running franchise, or for those looking to be simultaneously enthralled and terrified, this all-time classic is simply a must-play.